I want to tell you a story of my first encounter with an HIV/AIDS child. It was life-changing. It's such a precious experience for me. I want to take you back to 2005. I was in a village called Kotoli, about 45 minutes from Kuala Lumpur City, India. It was a fairly sized village, and we had the base of our operations there then because we were drilling bore wells, planting churches in the remote villages, so our base was in Kotoli back then. One day I saw a man running towards us. He was carrying a child in his arms and ran towards us, crying, yelling, "Please do something, take my child to the hospital." A pastor friend of mine came and asked what's going on. He has AIDS. And I could see this child in his father's arms, convulsing and coughing blood and foam out of his mouth. I'm thinking probably tuberculosis. And then his skin, from the top of his head, his face, everywhere was oozing blood with some kind of skin disease. And he was in a terrible condition. So I called the truck driver. He just took a break for lunch, and we just couldn't find him. He didn't pick up his phone, and we were desperate to take this child to the hospital. So I had to make a decision then. I think that itself changed my life in India. Until then, I told God I was never going to drive in India because I was afraid. The driving there was very difficult and hectic, and the country roads, there's only one road. There's no two lanes. You just, when the car comes against opposite side, you just have to barely swerve and not fall in the sugarcane field, come back onto the unpaved road. And they're not driving slow, they're driving fast with motorcycles, bicycles, people, goats, buffaloes, trucks, everybody and everything on the road. So I told God I'm never gonna drive in India. So I had to make a decision then because we couldn't find our truck driver. Am I gonna drive or not? When I looked into this father's eyes, I couldn't say no. So I said, let's go. I had an Indian driver's license that I acquired. I never used it. It was always in my pocket, just as an ID. Um, but we got in the vehicle and left side driving. I was still getting used to that. And the nearest hospital that would take an HIV/AIDS patient back then was a hospital called Miraj Mission Hospital. Miraj, we called it, but Miraj Mission Hospital. It was 2 hours away from Kotoli on unpaved roads and partly paved roads. I don't know how I got there. I don't know. It was purely the grace of God and angelic help because I remember almost getting into an accident many times. So we arrived at the hospital. The place was packed with patients. The reception room was an open area, was packed with patients and people. Pastor was going around trying to find somebody he might know just to get to see the doctor earlier because back then there's no appointment. You just wait for hours and hours. The father was sitting next to me on this bench with his son Santosh, a 9-year-old boy in his arms, convulsing, just in a terrible condition. And suddenly he got up and gave his child, plopped into my arms, into my lap, and said, "Ek mere brother, 1 minute," meaning I'll be back. I had no idea where he was going. I thought maybe he's going to the bathroom or maybe he's going to find the pastor to see if he could do anything. So I had this child in my hands. Suddenly, I was terrified because this child had AIDS and blood is coming out of all of his pores. And he was spewing blood because of tuberculosis. As I was holding this child, I heard the voice of God. You know, when those times you know it's God speaking to you. It's not an audible voice, but it's a voice in your heart. The Lord said, "Sing, sing to this child, because I'm taking him home." I was in the middle of this packed reception area with everybody sitting around me, and the Lord is asking me to sing to this child. So I hesitated for a moment. I looked at him, and I remembered an old Korean song. It's right out of the scriptures in Song of Solomon's in chapter 2. And it goes like this: Arise, my child, my beautiful one. The winter has passed. Rains are over and gone. Flowers are appearing. Season of singing has come. Blossoming of vines spread their fragrance. Fig trees form. Arise, my child, my darling, my beautiful one. Come away with me. As I was singing this song to this child, I felt a love of God, something that I didn't have until then. It was like a liquid, warm love of God coming into my heart. And I just fell in love with this child that I just met 2 hours ago. I fell in love with this child, and I sang this song over and over again. Arise, my child, my beautiful one. Winter is past. Time of suffering is over. Come away with me. The Lord was singing to this child through me. I don't know how long it took, but Pastor and his father came back and took the child and took him to see the doctor. Shortly after he passed, just like Jesus said, he took him to heaven. A few days later, I visited his house in Kotoli. I was glad to see another son, a younger son, a younger brother of Santosh, in the house, healthy and playing. The father was very sad and heartbroken, and we had a bit of a conversation. And he said, "All I remember is looking into my eyes and saying thank you." And I remember thinking, I didn't do much. It was too late, and it was too little. And I walked out of that house, and I said to myself, I'm going to help these people. I am going to help the HIV/AIDS community of that place. Those who are abandoned, who are sick, have no hospitals to go to. I'm going to help them. It was this one encounter with this child dying of AIDS that God used to channel his powerful love through me to tell this child that he was going to take him home. I was just a medium, but I was feeling the love of God that was coming from his heart to me and then to this child. God does that sometimes. He surprises us with unexpected events, and we are left with the choice: what am I going to do? Am I going to go help them? Am I going to go assist? Am I going to make a decision to go out of my way to do something that's uncomfortable? I want to tell you, it's in those moments that you encounter the beautiful presence of God. I don't think I would have experienced that kind of a love unless he was channeling it through me to this child. And that was the privilege of experiencing such a powerful love of God because I was willing to be a medium in that moment. I remember Jesus saying in Matthew 25, he said at the end of the ages, he will gather the people, and this is what he will say to us. Whatever you've done to the very little, small people, vulnerable, sick, dying, abandoned, lonely, whatever you've done to them, you have done unto me. Pleasing Jesus is very easy. You just have to make a choice. Sometimes just to go out of your way and be willing to be a medium. You can't really do anything, and you can't do much until God shows up and uses you to touch the people around you. And you have the benefit and the privilege of feeling the powerful love of God and the miracle of God at that moment. So this is how HIV/AIDS ministry was born, with that one encounter with this precious boy named Santosh. God bless you.